Welcome back to Badminton Weekly with me, Jasmine Lim. We're back in the studio and gearing up for the next leg on the HSBC BWF World Tour that gets underway in Bangkok next week. Since the conclusion of the Thomas and Uber Cup, we've seen several high-profile withdrawals from the Thailand Open and Malaysia Masters. With the Olympics nearing, players and their teams are starting to juggle form and fitness to get in shape for the Paris Games. Hans Christian Solberg Vittinghus and Steen Pedersen explain just what the players are considering.
This is the final part before the final preparations for the Olympics start, so it's very important for the players to be 100% ready when the final preparations start. And a couple of tournaments, if you have some small niggling injuries or maybe just don't feel at 100%, then you don't need a couple of tournaments. You need to be 100% fit when you go into the final 2 months, I would say, of the preparation for the Olympics. We always usually try to do a block of 6 to 8 weeks, where the first 3 or 4 weeks would be very physical focus. So you would try to get into even better shape and try to be 100% certain that when you get to the final couple of weeks, you're in the best possible shape. Then you start focusing a bit more after that on your gameplay, but still with like technical and tactical focuses in 1 or 2 weeks maybe. And then for the final 1 or 2 weeks, it's all about just feeling as energized as possible, as ready as possible, get your kind of game face on and get in the right state of mind. It's about fine-tuning basically.
Also in terms of seedings, so there's still players chasing the right seedings for the Olympics in these 4 tournaments. One thing is actually whether you have a chance to influence the seeding at the Olympics. Some seedings might be done and dusted, you might be out of reach for a seeding, or you might be actually certain of a seeding. So that influences your decision making, of course. Then it's also important to think about how have you done so far. Have you been a part of the Thomas Uber Cup team? Have you done well? Have you gone all the way through to the final, or have you lost earlier? What is your personal preferences in terms of playing tournaments? Do you like to play many tournaments and sort of get into playing shape, or do you prefer to practice and really build your form before you start competing? You can see that some of the older players seems to be struggling, and even some of the youngers. I mean, Anse Jung with her knee that she's had problems with basically in all of 2024.
I've been worried about Anse Jung for a long time. I've said it on this show before as well. I think we've seen her play way too much, and with strapping on both her knee and also her hamstring on many occasions. And it did actually worry me a lot to see that she suddenly felt ill as well at the Uber Cup. I'm happy to see that they chose not to play her in the semi-final. I think that's the first time we really seen them prioritize her health instead of playing matches and winning tournaments.
Then there's some for whom this is the home tournament. Ratchanok Intana and Kunlavut Vitisan, they're playing the first tournament in Thailand, the Super 500 tournament, and trying to get back into shape. So there's all kinds of different considerations for the players, and it's a puzzle. It really is a puzzle that maybe you don't solve immediately. Maybe you have to try and do it all over again and learn from the experiences you get from participating in the different tournaments.
I think the advantage for the players right now is that there is a lot of options in the coming weeks. We have tournaments almost non-stop for the next 8 weeks, so they have a lot of options and they can choose and pick which ones to play and which one not to. But I do imagine when we get to the Singapore Open 750, when we get to Indonesia Open 1000, you will see all the players there because they all want to have this kind of match fitness as well. Will feel ready for the Olympics. You need that feeling on court. So we will see a lot more players when we get 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead in time play in all the competitions. I'm certain of that.
One player who's certainly trying to be fighting fit for the Olympics is Tai Tzu Ying. In what will be her final bout on badminton's grandest stage, the player from Chinese Taipei wants to give it her all and go for gold.
Hello， 大家好，我是戴资颖。2024的巴黎奥运将会是我第4次的奥运会。
At the end of 2024, Tai Tzu-ying will bid farewell to her illustrious international badminton career. A truly gifted athlete who has won nearly everything there is to win on tour will also give it one last shot at the Paris Olympic Games, going for the coveted gold. Meanwhile, her fans have been turning up in throngs everywhere Tai goes to get one last glimpse, knowing this may be it. The Chinese Taipei shuttler, however, is all business and not getting caught up in the sentimentality of this final season.
对啊，因为我觉得比赛现在每一个阶段其实都是还算在很竞争的阶段，所以其实没有这么多的想法。那时候其实应该是说21年结束之后，本来应该是没有想要再继续打，可是因为疫情的关系，它延后了1年。然后在我休息过后，其实还有持续的在训练，那就大家说，明年就亚运了。我想说好，那就都已经打到亚运，我当然不可能就是再放过奥运，因为就是2年的时间而已，其实没有很长，但是在训练上感觉上是觉得蛮长的，因为我觉得毕竟整个人的状况其实都跟以前不太一样。
The 29-year-old has sizzled on the courts in the last year and a half, and the badminton world has earmarked her as one of the favorites to win gold in Paris. Not one to get caught up in the buzz, Tai Tzu-ying has a more realistic take on her chances.
我觉得如果我21年就是那个20的东京奥运没有拿到，这次要再拿到也不是没有机会，但是我觉得会比之前更加困难吧。没有不可能，但是我觉得会很困难，因为我觉得在就是到奥运的赛场上是很多是你平常比赛的时候可能你的一些感觉啊，对于比赛的感觉，我觉得大部分都还是会显得比较紧张，所以我觉得到那时候可能还会有什么状况，我也不晓得，但是我会努力。可能看起来的比赛上是还可以，可我自己觉得自己的，比如说身体状况啊，然后训练的状况，其实我觉得是没有很好的。
So no matter what happens in Paris, a 4th Olympic appearance in itself speaks volumes of Tai Tzu-ying as a player.
对，那我觉得自己，可以参加到第4次，我觉得应该是算蛮不容易的。可是我觉得自己在16年的时候，其实也应该就是要发挥得很好。可是16年那时候也，因为其实新都那时候其实也打得更好。对，然后他后来也是拿到了银牌吧，对，所以其实就觉得说，大家其实对这个比赛其实都是非常的拼命，然后很努力的去争取好成绩，然后其实这几位选手也都一起就是达到了现在，对啊，然后我觉得这应该也都是他们的最后一次参加奥运了，对啊，然后我觉得就是还是尽力去拼吧。
The qualification for the Olympic Games ended on the 28th of April, and it was the Race to Paris rankings list released on the 30th that determined who made the cut. Let's take a look at who's heading to the French capital. In men's singles, Denmark, Indonesia, China, Japan, and India will be represented by 2 athletes who placed within the top 16. The host nation will be represented by Toma Junior Popov, while Spain's Pablo Albion and Guatemala's Kevin Cordon qualify for a record-equaling 5th Olympics. El Salvador, Kazakhstan, and Nepal are represented in badminton for the first time. In women's singles, Korea, China, and Japan will have 2 athletes in the field, while France is represented by T. Shefei. Ratchanok Intanon, Tai Tzu-ying, Michelle Lee, and Lian Tan will all appear at their 4th games. Fatimah Abdul Razak received a universality place from the IOC Tripartite Commission, while Dorsa Yavari Vafa has been selected into the IOC Refugee Olympic team. Over to men's doubles, only China have secured 2 spots, with Liang Wang and Liu O placing within the top 8 at the end of qualification. Jomko Kedren secure an Olympic berth for Thailand in the discipline for the first time in 12 years, while host France will be represented by the Popov brothers. In women's doubles, China, Korea, and Japan have locked 2 spots each, as the top 6 positions are currently occupied by these nations. Reigning champion Apriani Rahayu returns with a new partner in Siti Fadia Silva Ramadanti, while Lambert and Tran get a nod for France. Finally, in mixed doubles, apart from the retired Wang Yiliu, all other finalists from the last edition will be back in action, with China securing the top 2 spots. France will be represented by Jiquel Delroux, while Denmark's Christensen Boye occupy the continental slot for Europe. As you saw in the women's singles list, Dorsa Yavorivafa, IOC Refugee Scholarship holder in badminton, has been selected into the IOC Refugee Olympic team for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Iran-born Yavorivafa will be the second badminton player to represent the IOC Refugee Olympic team after Syria-born Ara Mahmoud, who participated in the Tokyo 2020 Games.
When I heard my name was called as the Refugee Olympic team member, it was the best feeling ever, because the night before it I couldn't sleep at all, and I had so much stress and excitement, and it was such a mixed feeling. But when they called my name, I heard my mom shouting, screaming out of excitement. So it was such an amazing moment, because that stress relief was the best feeling ever, and I just told myself, wow, you made it, Dorsa, you're going to Olympics, which is technically everyone's dream, every athlete's dream. And that was the first ever time I saw my dad cry, which made me cry, and it was just all of us 3 hugging each other and crying, which was such an emotional moment, and I will never forget it.
Many players hit top form at the TotalEnergies Thomas and Uber Cup 2024, which in turn has boosted their Olympic preparation. BWF commentator Steen Pedersen had a pretty tough time narrowing it down to who did it best, but here are his picks for the standout performance and performer from Chengdu.
We had a number of very thrilling and exciting matches in Chengdu, and there's obviously some players and pairs that I've put down in my little black notebook that I thought performed really well. Obviously, Chou Tiantian from Chinese Taipei, who got a win against Victor Axelsen, is one that goes down in the notebook, and for Victor Axelsen it also goes down in the notebook, but with a little minus next to it, because that was unexpected that Chou was able to defeat the reigning world champion. One of the things I felt Chou did really well in the match against Victor Axelsen was that his defense worked quite well. It wasn't easy for the Danes to score, and then Chou, he took a more aggressive style at times than we saw previously in his matches against Axelsen, trying to follow up sharp on the front court, trying to push and looking for the small chances that he could get, and I think that put Axelsen under pressure, and eventually it turned out well for Chou. Other mentions that I would like to make is a newcomer that I wasn't too much aware of before the Thomas and Uber Cup. In the Uber Cup field was Esther Nurumi Triwadoyo from Indonesia. I thought her playing style and her performance was something that was very promising, also alongside with the third women's singles, Kumang Devi from Indonesia. The thing that really impressed me with Esther Badoyo throughout the tournament was her speed of movement and her variation, her great attacking skills that I wasn't really aware of. We haven't seen her a lot on the World Tour. It's been difficult for newcomers to make their way into the World Tour, as all tournaments have been crowded with top players wanting to gather as many points as possible for the Olympic qualification. But her technical skills and her speed, that really surprised me. And then her mental resilience. She played a very good match against Aya Ohoria and came close to winning. It was one game up and it was 20-all in the second. So being a young player, that's a player that I'm looking forward to follow.
That's it for now, but before we go, we'd like to wish Go Sun Hwat and Chef and Jamie Lai a big congratulations on their wedding. Some familiar faces on the guest list as the happy couple tied the knot just northeast of Kuala Lumpur. Here's wishing them both a long and happy marriage. With that, it's time to say goodbye. See you guys next week.